What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the LA Soccer Hub Show. My name is Gio Garcia. Today we're talking LAFC. We're talking black and gold. It's Tuesday. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Euros. There was another great game going on in the Euros. We got Copa America going on. But before we get started, let me introduce my guests. We got Juan Pablo Marquez back, and we have Steve Han from Goal once again. Steve, how you doing?
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for having me again.
It's good to have you. Juan Pablo, what's going on, man? I like your jersey.
I'm good, man. Thank you. Nice to be back.
I like it too.
Korea jersey too. I like it.
I actually have the same jersey. That's crazy. That's the training jersey.
Yeah, the training jersey.
Yeah, it's one of the popular. I think that one's actually more popular than the actual, like the game jersey.
Yeah,
even amongst the Korean fans, which is crazy.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of like very creative design wise when it comes to the jerseys.
It hasn't been that long because we used to get these, cookie cutter, like kind of like the leftover Nike, shirts, and then something happened. Something happened in recent years, and now we're getting all these, crazy looking jerseys and like training shirts. It's pretty cool to see for sure.
You guys got a great designer over there. Maybe definitely gonna help out some of the MLS teams, man, because some of the designs been lacking here in the MLS.
Yeah. No, because that's kind of weird because MLS jerseys, they're pretty much the same design, right? It's just different colors for each team.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like. Yeah,
exactly.
See, that's one of the very few problems I have with MLS. Like, visually, it's kind of too bland, from time to time.
No, you're right again, and I think that's one of the things that some of the designs and some of the jerseys they came out with, it's like head scratching. But we'll see what happens moving forward because I think there's a lot. Oh, I got someone honking over here. Can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Welcome to LA.
yeah.
That's the full experience at 7:00 at night. But yeah, no, I think some of the designs on the jerseys could be a lot better. But I'm gonna start wearing that. I have a couple other different jerseys that I was gonna wear, but I'm moving, so I couldn't find them. But let's talk about a little bit about the Euros. It was a great game today. What did you guys think, Juan Pablo? What did you think about the games today?
I had England and Belgium as my favorites to win it all, so I'm kind of happy with the result. It was a good game. The Ukraine game was, I guess, a bit more exciting at the end. Nasty red card. I didn't see the games yesterday, so I'm kind of sad about that because those were amazing. But yeah, I mean, England and Belgium are my favorites to win it all, so I'm okay. I'm happy.
Yeah, I did watch a little bit of the England game versus Germany. Germany looks like they've fallen off, man. Ever since Mexico, ever since Korea beat them in the World Cup, I think they've gone down the trend, right? So, but it hasn't looked good for them, and with so much talent, right, and them being previous World Cup champions, last couple times, but it hasn't looked good with them. Steve, were you able to catch the games today?
Oh yeah, I've been following the tournament pretty extensively because it's part of work too, because I do a lot of stories on European soccer too. And I actually it's funny because going into the tournament I had Portugal as my favorites just because I actually thought their squad for this tournament was better than the one in 2016 when they won the tournament, which no one kind of expected that. Like we didn't really see that coming, most of us at least. And then, I think this new look Portugal team, they looked good, on paper, but I wasn't really convinced by, their style of play, really. I was kind of disappointed the way they lost that game against Belgium, is, like maybe except for the last 30 minutes or so when they really started pushing. But I think their manager kind of set them up to fail, to be honest with you, because they were playing way too conservatively, considering the amount of attacking talents that they have. So I was kind of disappointed to see that. And now with France out, it's like pretty much anybody's tournament, whoever survived so far. And I do think the strongest team is Italy right now of all the teams that survived. But I just have this gut feeling all these teams that peak too early in tournaments, they end up not winning, which is the most disappointing thing, really. And I can see how England can just steal this and win the tournament probably for the first time ever, right?
Yeah, they're gonna bring it home. Or what's that hashtag? Bring it home.
Yeah,
football's coming home.
Yeah, I mean, them beating Germany today was pretty special in the way they did. I know Harry Kane at first didn't have a good game. I think he had a shot. He had an opportunity to score, and he didn't. But then I think he ended up scoring the second goal. I mean, that's good for him, and I think it's good for them to get the win. But yeah, going back to yesterday's game, I don't know. I watch obviously European football and everything, but I'm not as versed. But I was just like, look, the way France has all these so much talent, I was just surprised that they ended up losing after being up 3-1, right? And I think that's the magic and the excitement about this tournament. It doesn't matter whoever has a lead, like being 2 goals ahead is probably not. It's not the same safety net that it once used to be, because when a team was used to be 3-1, up 3-1, you're like, oh, the game's over. But like clearly this tournament is like rewriting history, and that's not true. Like, teams can score pretty quick, and I was very surprised that they went to penalties. But look, all my money is on Switzerland now. I got to support the underdog. I'm going with them. I'm riding with them. We'll see what happens. We're gonna have to see what happens with that. But it's been a great tournament. I mean, I feel like everybody's definitely got their money's worth. It's just been exciting to watch all of that. For me, what I think on this one, Pablo, is like, man, when can we get a tournament? Like, can we make the Copa America with Mexico and with USA, right? Like, why don't we just make, like, you have the Euros, all of European teams, right? Even Russia is in the Euros, right? They're considered Eastern Europe, or I think Asia. They're part of the Asian continent. But like, I think we need to have that. If we can have Copa America over here with Mexico and the US, I think it's just going to would make you that intensity a lot better. I know that Mexico's been in there in the past, but unfortunately they're not in it this year. What are your thoughts on that, JP?
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely make the tournament stronger, give the winner, I guess, more credibility. I would generate a lot more money. If CONMEBOL were smart, it would generate a lot of money. But if Mexico or US end up winning it, then it just takes away, I guess, some prestige away from South America, because South America is seen as like this hard continent where everybody can beat everybody, and then Mexico and the US aren't seen as that strong and aren't in the continent. I guess it's just South American pride at this point. Because Mexican clubs aren't in La Libertadores anymore, and they haven't been in the Copa America since the 2016 one, where it was here in the US, and ever since then the level or the invitees haven't been as strong. So
yeah, that's one thing I would like to see moving forward. We'll see what happens. Steve, what's going on? What's going on with Korea? What are they competing in? Is there a couple of tournaments? What's going on with the national team?
Right. I mean, their full national team, their senior national team just finished their World Cup qualifying. I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with it because Kim Moon-hwan played on the team. He started 2 of the 3 games. They won all 3 of their remaining games in the second round of qualifying in Asia. So they've advanced to the final round of qualifying. And the draw for the final round of qualifying in Asia is actually, I believe it's in 2 days. I think our time in LA, it's probably tomorrow night, if I remember correctly. So that's going to be really interesting. Korean people are kind of hoping that we are grouped with Japan, who are the arch rivals for us. So that's kind of exciting. But for the time being, what's really going to keep the Korean fans occupied is the Olympics, obviously, because this Korean team that's going to Tokyo is probably one of the most talented teams that we're gonna see Korea at this level, especially in this age group. And the squad is actually going to be announced in 3 hours, which is the crazy part, and then people really excited about that too, because the last 18-man squad is going to be announced in about, I believe, 10 o'clock our time tonight. That's going to be interesting. There's going to be a big press conference in Seoul today. So the Olympics, obviously a big tournament for Korea. The fans don't take it as seriously as the World Cup. But it's probably the second biggest tournament for football fans in Korea. So that's really exciting. And the final round of World Cup for Korea is starting, I believe, in September. And once that starts, that's people are going to be occupied for sure.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Do you think Kim Moon-hwan is going to make the Olympics, or is he interested in that?
Oh yeah, I don't think he's one of the players available for it, because he's not in that age group, number one. And I think the 3 overaged players that the Korea is going to take, I believe one of them, the decision has already been made. It's going to be Hwang Hee-jo, who plays in France. He's a striker. And then I believe other position, it's either going to be a central defender and or a winger. So that's okay. Like the position that Kim Moon-hwan plays in, not really a necessity for Korea to pick an overage player for.
Okay, I was just curious about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, before we get started, I know there's Guardado in the chat says, "What's up with the Galaxy Talk?" Hey, the Galaxy Talks is on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Guardado, you're a day late, but you can listen to that on Spotify podcasts. But yeah, let's talk about LAFC, man. It was another ugly game for LAFC. I would say it was a poor performance. The second half, I feel like the first half was, they played great. They got the lead. Well, Pablo, what were your thoughts going into this game? I know you're about to take a sip there, my bad.
It's okay.
But what were your
okay.
thoughts going into this game? Right, they had just come off the win at FC Dallas. You were there, we were both there at the stadium. The momentum was riding high. What were your thoughts going into this game?
I thought it was a true test. The first, I guess, final of the season. And I thought LAFC could do it. LAFC, it was going to be a hard-fought match. What I saw in the first half, I expected, like a 1-0, if anything, hard-fought. But LAFC could pull it off and, get the momentum going and for the rest of the season. But, it didn't end up happening that way. But before the game, I thought LAFC could do it and, get the momentum they needed.
Yeah, obviously it was a tough thing. Steve, I'm very curious on your thoughts because this is your first year covering the team. Being on the beat and being going to games as much.
Right.
Obviously, with Kim Moon-Wan. What are your thoughts so far of the team? Obviously, it's 10 games in. They got the victory right against FC Dallas. It's been a little bit of consistency. But what were your thoughts so far in these first 10 games?
I think because I haven't followed LAFC as extensively as I am like this season, up until like last season. But I did watch them from time to time because we've had Korean players in MLS before. And, whenever they would play, whenever I happened to be in town or whatever, I would go cover the games or I would watch the game on TV, on my laptop or whatever. And I think they're in a really weird place right now, LAFC, because I believe this is Bob Bradley's 4th season with the club. And, 4th season for a manager, I think it's always a little weird, especially to start the season because they've already been through a cycle. Because 3 seasons, that's a long time, especially in modern day, modern football. That's for a manager to be in charge of a team for 4 years, I think that's quite a long time. And I think LAFC so far, when you look at them, they're still a very, very competitive team. I can see why they've been one of the dominant teams until last season in MLS. But it's just like it's kind of weird when I'm watching them because it's just like. Moment of breakdown defensively, they give up a goal and they end up, just not getting 3 points in that game. They either, settle for a draw or they end up losing. And that's always kind of like, it's tough to assess a team like that, especially this early in the season. I know we're 10 games in now. But, I think we just have to wait and see because we know like what Bob Bradley at LAFC have been capable of, and, like the way that they played at least until like 2 seasons ago, I think, because I think even last season towards the end, they didn't look like the same team. And like this season, early on, they don't look like the team that they once were. So it's kind of like so far, I'm a little bit disappointed with the results that they've been producing, but I see promising signs within the team. So we'll see if they can turn it around. But a 4th season with the same manager, that it could be tough, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean you bring up great points. I want to get your thoughts because like you said, you haven't been covering this team from the start. I've been there since the start, Juan Pablo. But your football knowledge is very credible, and you've been covering the teams all over the world. But yeah, I think to your point, it's been a disappointing start. 10 games in, you're sitting they're currently right now. They're sitting. I got the chart up here. They're currently sitting in 9th place with 12 points. They're all the way at the bottom. 12 points in 10 games is not good, no matter which way you cut it. And I know there's been injuries and all that. But like this team, there's a system that they want to play and everything, but they haven't been able to produce. But before we go dive deep into that, I want to talk a little bit more about the first half. Great first half. They pretty much dominated. They were rolling. I was like, yo, they're gonna walk away if they keep this up. They're gonna walk away with 3 points. Your boy Steve Kim Moon-Wan got the goal. It was an amazing play. He is a real offensive threat. I like his game and I like what he's able to do in that 3-5-2 formation. Playing as that wing back and being a threat offensively. I'm gonna play the goal, and then Juan Pablo, wants your thoughts on this play.
The Seattle Sounders have come into their own. Meanwhile, Well, this is Cifuentes, good one, inside on the left foot, and his first goal for LAFC! The Korean international marks his arrival in splendid style. What a way to open his account. Just his second start for the club.
It was an amazing finish, amazing goal. Juan Pablo, what were your thoughts on that play?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect him to score out of everybody. I'm just being honest. I see him more as an assister. But if I'm not mistaken, like shortly before that, he had another chance and he decided to pass it instead of shooting. So you know, he took the chance. You know, he has enough experience. He represents Korea. You know, it's not like he's a youngster that LAFC have gotten. You know, like their other signings. You know, he has experience. He knows what to do more or less. So yeah, he cut in. Great ball by Cifuentes. You know, the middle had a great first half, creating chances, opening spaces. And Moon, you know, plays wide and fast. So he was open. You know, he took two defenders with him, and then, you know, slotted it in with his left, which is, I guess, more impressive because, you know, he's a righty. So yeah, it was a great goal. You know, really gave LAFC the momentum they needed going into the half. You know, really making them believe that they could win this. But, you know, second half changed it.
Yeah, no, to your point, he did have an opportunity before that to take a shot on goal. He didn't, but he did capitalize on this, and I really like that he was able to score, and he's going on with this momentum. Steve, talk to me about this play and his goal.
Yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I were to say that I wasn't surprised by the fact that he scored, because he's not, you know, we all know he's not a goal scoring player. He never has been. He probably never will be. So this probably will be one of the very few goals he'll score for LAFC. So let's clear that first. But I think in terms of the way he has played in these last two games, when he's, you know, because he just started starting for LAFC, you know, which is what really kind of threw us off in Korea, because, you know, we sort of expected, you know, he's going to LAFC, you know, this is a player that we expected to go to Europe at one point, but, you know, he's playing in MLS, which we don't see as, you know, one of the best leagues in the world. You know, let's be honest about that. But we all expect him to be that permanent starter from the start of the season. But, you know, he's had some health issues, and I think competition for him, he's starting to find out, is not really that easy for him, because Tristan Blackman's a good player. He's a solid player. But I think in terms of the way that he's played in these last two games, definitely impressive, but not a big surprise, because this is the way he plays. You know, he's a very attacking fullback. Defensively, he could be a liability depending on how you line up defensively, but I do think going forward, you know, his ability to attack, his ability to make those runs into the box, even without the ball, you know, with or without the ball, those are things that he can do. So, aside from the goal, everything else that I've seen from him, you know, some of the things that I expected to see from him to start the season, but he's obviously had some health issues. So, you know, in terms of his style of play and what he's been able to contribute in these last two games, not a big surprise, to be honest with you.
No, and I think you hit on a lot of great points there. I think we're really seeing where he's the most capable, and I think it's offensively. I think at times defensively he does get caught up in times, but like, I mean, him coming off the bench, I mean, him starting these last two games has been amazing, and you're really starting to see his flourish. Because I know when I talked to you at the start of the first time I talked to you, you were like, hey, you know, we're looking for him to start, and I knew there was going to be competition there with Tristan Blackman, because I saw the job Tristan Blackman was going to do. So I like that they've gone with this 3-5-2. So I meant to talk about the lineup. So let's talk about the lineup. So Bob Bradley went with three center backs, essentially Eddie Segura, Jesus Murillo, and Tristan Blackman. Obviously on the wing, he had Kim Moon-Wan, Latif Blessing, Eduardo Tuesta, Jose Cifuentes, and then Marco Fafan. And then up top, he started Diego Rossi and Danny Masevsky. So that was like how the first half shaped up with the lineup. And I thought, to me, was interesting, you know, looking at the lineup, that I like that Kim Moon-Wan started. The only thing that was interesting for me was that Vela wasn't starting, right? And I know he had 3 games. He had 3 games in like 6 days or whatever, how many days, right? It was 3 games, pretty quick. And I think that, to me, in my mind, I was like, all right, he probably doesn't play the first half. He probably starts the second half or whatever. You know, looking at this game, it was a very winnable game. But I think once the second half started, I was very surprised by the substitutions. I was very surprised that K came in for Cifuentes. Before we get into more of that, Cifuentes had a great first half. He was dangerous. He was creating opportunities. He was doing a lot of things that I was like, okay. Cifuentes had just gotten a goal. I think the previous game he done a lot of different things, and I was really liking that. What were your thoughts on Jose Cifuentes' first half, JP?
Yeah, like you said, it was a great game. It was just a great game overall. The middle was good. The back three looked solid. The wing backs, with Farfan and Moon looked great, gave width and were offensive. But yeah, I mean, Cifuentes gave Kimumon the assist. He had a great game. His best game was against Dallas, and then he had another one Saturday. But he gets taken out at half, which is we'll get to in later. But yeah, his first half was great. The whole team played good in the first half. They should have capitalized on another opportunity, but 1-0 at half is not bad against KC.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Jose Cifuentes now that you've been able to see this team, Steve?
He looks like a good player. And I do think, speaking of the 3-5-2 formation, I think that is probably because one of the things that I've noticed about LAFC from the times I've seen them, even before this season, is that they're only capable of playing. At least until this season, we're only starting to see like signs of it. But I think up until last season, they really look like a team that's only capable of playing one way. And if things don't go their way, they kind of they struggle and they turn because playoff games are different. I know there's a big debate. In America about whether the playoffs it's a suitable system for this sport and whatnot. But it is what it is, right? To win MLS, you have to go through the playoffs and you have to win it. And I think for a team like LAFC, what they really needed going into this season was some kind of a tactical versatility where they can play different styles of the game, make adjustments accordingly. And I think we see the efforts that Bob Bradley is making to kind of make the team suitable to play that way, but it really hasn't been working as effectively so far. So that's why I say we're only 9-10 games into the season right now. So it's hard to make, like a final, assessment on I'm not sure what to make of this season just yet. But we just have to wait and see. But so far,
you don't have to give me your thoughts on the season. More on Jose Cifuentes and what he did in the midfield, because we'll get later into that. Because I know where your mind's at. I know where your mind's at because it's not looking good. Let's put it this way: it's not looking good for LAFC.
Yeah,
it's not. Look, there's no other way to put it. They're playing poor 10 games in, right? And we're gonna get more into that. But I think when we look at the midfield, I think the midfield of Jose Cifuentes, Latif Blessing, and Eduardo Tuesta, I was blinking on his name. Eduardo Tuesta, that is very solid. And I think I like that midfield a lot more because of the capabilities and the versatilities that you see, right? Tuesta is not coming off the bench. That's a fact. But I think, to me, Latif Blessing and Jose Cifuentes, I've said this in the start, those guys should be the starters, and those guys should get more minutes. JP, give me your thoughts on the midfield.
Yeah, like you said, I think this is the midfield that should start the rest of the season if everybody, stays on the team. K can come off the bench or, be in the rotation. But, for big games, I think Jose Cifuentes, Atuesta, and Blessing are the three you should go with. Both Atuesta and Cifuentes have a mid-range shot. They can shoot from outside the 18, which is dangerous. And sometimes you just got to let it rip and see where it goes. And then Blessing is the recover and the one that brings energy into the midfield and, brings energy to the whole LAFC team when he's in, and you saw that in the second half when he wasn't in there.
Yeah, and I think that going into the second half, right? The substitutions are made. K comes in for Cifuentes, Baird comes in for Musovski. Steve, were you surprised with the substitutions at halftime? How well they were playing? To me, let me just put it this way: Bob Bradley has never made substitutions of two players at halftime, from what I can recall. I know he's made some at halftime, one player, but from what I recall, he's never made two. I could be wrong on that, but I've never seen that. Were you surprised by those substitutions?
Yeah, more so than the substitutions, I was just surprised that they sort of changed the way that they were playing. Because the first half looked pretty solid. I didn't think they were perfect, but it looked pretty solid. It looked like a performance that they can really build on. And then he kind of went away from what the team was trying to do in the first half. And that was what really surprised me. The substitutions, obviously, I think contributed to that. So yes, I was surprised, but, I was just surprised to see them play in a different way, because the first half, considering that it was an away game, everything looked pretty solid. And then, the second half, things just went south. And I think the changes that he made sort of, contributed to that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the subs made a change to the momentum. I know some people may say the Tristan Blackman red card, right? Of course, that impacts the game, but I think the momentum that they were having and what was broken, it's like one of those things. The thing that I would think, it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And they didn't need a sub at the 45th minute and going into halftime. Sifu could have played another 10, 20 minutes if you want to get in another midfielder and do it later, right? Do it in the 67th. The game wasn't out of reach, and I don't think this was a tactical. I don't think this was an injury. Maybe Danny Masevsky could come out, but I wasn't expecting Corey Barry to come in. I was expecting Carlos Vela to come in. That was the only thing in my mind. I was like, if there's a sub, it's going to be Carlos Vela. He's going to play the 45, and right, that makes sense, right? Vela for Danny Masevsky. Juan Pablo, give me your thoughts on the subs.
I mean, the substitutions just don't make sense. You're winning 1-0 with a new formation. And it's looking good. It's working out. It's working for you. You were out possessed, but that's, granted, the five in the back is more or less a defensive formation at times. So LAFC looked a bit back in the first half, but you bring Carlos Vela in at halftime. You don't bring him in the 57th minute in the middle of the second half. It's kind of just a weird substitution or a weird time to bring him in. You bring him in at half, saying, okay, we're going to put you in and we're going to kill off this game 2-0. And, Sporting KC is not going to come back. You take out Blessing and Cifuentes, the two motors in the midfield. So it's obviously going to shake everything up. And then you obviously saw it. And like Steve said, the way LAFC came out was just not the same as the first half. And, more than the subs, it was just, I guess, an attitude, or maybe the attitude changed with the subs. But yeah, it felt like a different formation, even though it wasn't. And, they just looked sloppy at the beginning of the second half, which, cost them the game.
Yeah, I think it did. It really did, the substitutions, because it wasn't the same team starting the second half. And I think the one thing that I was just like scratching my head. I was like, why? Okay, like Sifu's having a great game, right? K has not been as consistent, right? And he has not been the player that he once was. And to me, I think this is where Bob Bradley is getting it wrong in the midfield with K. If you want to bring in K, bring him in later in the game, bring him in the 70th, 80th minute. Like, it's clear to me that Bob Bradley's not seeing the same thing we're seeing with K. He's just not. And it's just like, I know a lot of people have said that maybe there's some favoritism there towards K. I know K has been obviously trashed by the fans and everything and on all social media, right? And some of that, I feel like it's unfortunate that happens, because I know K, he's a great guy, but he's just not playing his best football. And the player that's playing the best right now is Jose Cifuentes, and Jose Cifuentes is rolling right now. So whether it's Bob Bradley playing the favoritism, or whether Bob Bradley really wants to get K in rhythm, he lost his game because he wanted to put K in. And I think that's what I read into it, that he wanted to get K in, he wanted to get some minutes, he wanted to get him rolling. But I think you only bring in a player that is struggling when you're already winning and you already essentially sealed the deal with them. And on the substitution, what minute was it? Court, or they came in at the 40. Vela comes in the 57th minute. Yeah. Vela wasn't able to get in rhythm. I think for me, what I would have liked to see is either, Vela comes in for Danny Masevsky at halftime. Hey, let him get in rhythm right away. Or Vela comes in for if you want to switch it up, Vela comes in for Tristan Blackman, and you go back to the 4-3-3. You put in Kim Moon at the right back, and you have Danny Masevsky, Vela, Rossi, and then the midfield. Like, that's one of the two things that I saw changing, because Tristan Blackman was not having a good game. He was really struggling, and maybe it was because he was getting caught a lot there, even with the three center backs. But I think that's where Bob got it wrong, and that's where I think, I don't know what it is, because it's not making sense. That I don't know how Bob Bradley could not see those things, and I don't know what's playing into that, right? Steve, outside looking in, What were your thoughts on Vela coming in at the 57th minute?
Well, I mean, I do think, theoretically, it could make sense that he came on at that point because they were playing on short rest, and Vela's had some injury problems to start the season, so I wouldn't say it's complete nonsense that he came off that he came on at a later stage, but I mean it's just that even with Vela on the pitch, I do think that LAFC, they just don't have that spark that they once had in the final third, especially. And I think that's the most disappointing thing because even we're talking about the midfield too. Atuesta, Cifuentes, Blessing. It looks like a really good cohesive unit, that's for sure. But I do think defensively they could be a little bit soft, and I think that could potentially contribute. That could have been contributing to some of the defensive lapses that they've had this season. Because I think defensively overall they're pretty solid. But at the same time, they have these, moments of breakdowns. And that's what really has let them down this season. So, that's been one of the biggest frustrations for me when watching this team.
Yeah. Well, JP, what were your thoughts on Vela coming in the 57th minute?
I just think it's the overall message Bob Bradley sends with him, coming in kind of at the 57th. It's like he kind of didn't know what he wanted to do. He didn't know if he wanted to kill off the game or he wanted to control the game. I think he just should have came in at half. You can sub Corey Baird and Mark Anthony Kaye in, but you also put Vela in the 45th minute because, like you said, he's your number 10. He needs to be involved. He needs to be in the game, and the easiest way for him to be involved, get his touches in, get his confidence up in the game is at half. Not in the middle of the game where momentum is shifting. KC has the ball or whatever it may be. It's just not the smartest time to make the sub because it's not like KC had just tied the game. You were still up 1-0, and I just don't think it was the right time for that substitution.
Yeah, and I think the thing on that, and I think we've seen too many of the similar mistakes for LAFC, and I think Bob Bradley, his adjustments, I think that's one of the things that I've seen covering in these last 4 years. Those are the things he's at times he gets challenged. He's very challenged. He struggles with because you're winning the game. You got the momentum, and you kill the flow, which what I saw. Though you had some type of flow, and you kind of kill the flow with what's going on, what's been working, and then unfortunate, right? Whether he doesn't know when he wants to put Vela in or whatever. I don't know in the conversation. Hey, you're only going to play 30 minutes or 25 minutes or whatever. But even if Vela plays 25 minutes, does he really make that big of an impact in 25 minutes? I don't think so. I don't think so. Vela's not a sub. Vela starts a game, right? He's not necessarily a sub. I get it. He's just playing these games. Like if a player's only going to play 25, 30 minutes, yeah, he can be impactful, but not Vela. I don't really see it, especially how this team has been so up and down. I really felt like 45 minutes could have really helped Vela a lot. Comes in, or let's play the timeline. Comes in at 57th minute, 58th minute, Tristan Blackman gets a red card, and then the game. To me, pretty much, I was right there. It was a matter of time. What were your thoughts as soon as Tristan Blackman got that red card, Steve?
Well, I mean, you kind of just like from LAFC standpoint, I do think that they were at a point where maybe they can get it away with a draw at least, because I think if this was a draw for them, 1-1. They take this result. I think they would have been content with it. But to give away 2 goals, because it wasn't like there was a whole lot of time left. I mean, about 30 minutes or so. It's a long enough time for you to concede 2 goals. But, considering the amount of talent that they still had on the pitch, I do think, giving up 2 goals in the last 30 minutes to throw the game away, that was just like really disappointing to see. And with the changes that he's made that just didn't go LAFC's way, just overall, it was a big disappointment.
Yeah, and I think what were your thoughts on that play on Tristan Blackman, JP?
He gave the ball away. I think he gave the ball away, or he gave a bad pass, and then he just Shallowy just got past him because Shallowy's having a great season right now. He got past him, and he had to pull him. I was watching the game with my mom. My mom was like, she was like, he shouldn't have pulled him. Maria was right there. He would have got into him.
I love it. I love the mom takes.
Yeah, because she's a soccer mom, but she's like Mario could have slid in there. He didn't have to grab him, but I was like, yeah, but you don't go off what ifs, you go off the safe one, and he pulled them. Going back to the Vela, last point was Vela went in and then Rossi shifted to the middle. So that was again another confusing thing. And then especially with the red card with Blackman, that's when Bob Bradley says, "Okay, I still have 2 subs. We need to save this result. 1-1 is okay because it's still 1-0. He needed to make a sub instantly because you're playing 5 in the back and you lose a center back. You need to make a substitution instantly. But then the camera focuses on Bob Bradley and he just stunned, silent with his arms crossed. And that's just not the message you wanna give off. You go to your bench. You go to your assistants because it's not like it's just Bob Bradley coaching by himself. So his assistants have to help him and aid him. If Bob Bradley isn't getting it right, his assistants need to see, hey, okay, we're down a man, and he was one of our center backs. It's not like it's a man in the midfield center back. Put a Harvey or Fall in, which we'll get to later, I'm sure. But you need to make another adjustment there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's the thing. When one of your center backs gets a red card, yeah, you still have Eddie Segura and Jesus Murillo, but like you need to pull an offensive player to bring in a defender, right? And that's how I was like, okay, I don't know if he's gonna take out Baird or he just put him in. It kind of doesn't make sense, right? I was like, my instinct was, okay, he's gonna pull either someone from the midfield, either Latif or Diego Rossi. It was because those were the players that's what to me kind of made sense in my mind. And I was like, okay, you pull someone, you let Jordan Harvey or Fall, and it didn't happen. What were your thoughts? Did you expect a change after that red card, Steve?
I did, but I didn't really see a change. I mean, who knows what Bob Bradley was trying to do, but in terms of the way the game played out, I didn't really see a sign of a team that was going to change the way that they were playing. And it just, I think the intensity dropped too after the red card. And I think that was the biggest factor in terms of them, giving up 2 goals and losing. So overall, I think not even after the red card, but leading up to that red card as well, pretty much the entire second half was just a big disappointment for me because the intensity dropped by at least like 2 notches, I think. And that was, LAFC, this is a team that thrives when they're playing at a high intensity. And once that goes away, it's, they're just not the same team anymore.
Yeah, no, I think to me it was kind of shocking because it was just like, you made all these subs, maybe because he already made all these subs. Maybe he was like, you know what, maybe we can save this. And I think to me, like, whether you go back to whatever lineup you can go or formation you can go back, I think you really needed a sub. You really need to bring another defender and substitute an offensive threat. Let me know if my video is his G-Man again with the comments. He said your vid is the only one fuzzy. Are you dual streaming with your OnlyFans? Unfortunately, I don't have an OnlyFans. I'm not one of those people that's making $1 million on the side just posting pictures of whatever it is they post on there. G-Man, you're hilarious, brother. I love your comments. Hey, Layla, we'll get into some of the comments. Francisco, he says, if I was Bob, I would bench K until he learns his lesson that unfortunately he says he sucks. I would talk to the office to buy 2 quality players to help the starting 11. I mean that's very harsh, but I mean there's the truth from a fan right there. K has not been good. I'm not going to go as far as saying he sucks because I don't think any player that plays in MLS sucks. But like I know fans have a different point of view, and they're very honest in their ways. But I think K is not to me is not been. If you're talking about a team that once has championship aspirations, K is not there at this season so far. And he and I think Jose Cifuentes and a couple other people should get that start. And I've been saying that. Did you have a thought, Steve?
I mean, I do think, like fundamentally he's a good player, but this season I think you're definitely right that his just form hasn't been where it was until last season. And you still do see in moments what he's capable of. I mean, he's a good passer. He's a physical presence in midfield, so he provides a lot of the things I think that Bob Bradley needs from his midfielder, at least, one of the 3 midfielders that he plays often. But the frustration from him is that he makes critical mistakes that cost games for his team. And I think that's been the biggest letdown for him. Overall performance, I don't think it has been that bad, but it's the mistakes that have been really costly for him. And,
I agree.
When you're playing in that position, because he's a midfielder who plays in his own half a lot. And when you make mistakes like that, it's going to cost games for your team. So that's probably been the biggest frustration with him.
And you can't overlook that. JP, give me your thoughts on K.
I think he deserves to be benched. He deserves to be benched. I don't think he shouldn't not play. I just think he just shouldn't be a starter. He's been given 7 games this season, and he just hasn't lived up to the expectation. It's not the K from from seasons past that he wasn't the best midfielder, but he didn't make these mistakes. He didn't cost LAFC points. So I think he's at times a liability, and he just doesn't deserve to start at times. Maybe he's comes off the bench the next 3 games and does great performances. Then maybe he gets a start as a rotational midfielder. But in the tough games, he's just not the starter for me.
Yeah, no, I think it's very clear. I think he needs to earn that spot because I think his passing, that is the biggest thing. Is you'll have one great pass and then you'll have another bad pass, and unfortunately, the first goal that led to that was because of K, right? I think you even heard the announcer say, "Oh, this play was by K," and I think that is the thing. The mistakes, his mistakes overlook everything solid that he's done on the field. You just to me, you can't overlook that. The mistakes trump anything positive he's done because the mistakes are so costly. They cost the goal, they cost this, they cost the momentum. And I think, if someone wants to tell you otherwise, that's totally fine. But that is not what I'm seeing. My eyes don't lie. I feel like I have a very good understanding of this game. And just right now, Kay is going through a tough period. And I think the only, to me, in my eyes, is get him coming off the bench, but not at the 45th minute. Not the 45th minute. He would have to come in like at the 70th, 80th minute, get a momentum and stuff like that, because it shouldn't be like, and I think to me now, I've been hearing a lot of this, and there's a lot of favoritism towards K. I think after this game kind of cleared that to me, because the way Sifu had played, and he had been playing the last 2 games. Look, Kim Won had been playing solid. Man deserved to start. He deserved to start again to this past game, and he deserves to start moving forward, right? Obviously, Blackman's not going to be available because of the red card. I feel the same way about Jose Cifuentes. He scored that 1 goal, and he's been playing great, and I feel like he deserves to start. He deserves all the minutes until, say, Kim gets tired or, Jose Cifuentes gets tired, right? But that wasn't the case necessarily. Or, look, Tristan Blackman, it was not his game, right? He deserves to have some bad games. This was his bad game, and I think Tristan Blackman could probably been pulled out a little sooner. Even with that yellow card, he just didn't have a game. But also I think the dramatics with this game too, it started to rain as well. It was just, once it started to rain, I was like, 1, this is not good for Vela and his injuries. 2, they're down a man. And now this is like the perfect story for Sporting KC. Give me your thoughts on Latif Blessing, JP.
I label him as our Conte. He's just always running. He's always there.
Okay,
He recovers the ball, and he gives it to the offensive creators, which are Cifuentes and Atuesta, to push the ball forward. But he's box to box. He's always pressing. He's pressing everywhere. He's pressing in the back line. He's pressing in the midfield. He's pressing up top. He's always there. I liked his association with Kim. I think he's the one that has the most chemistry with Kim. They were doing 1-2s down the wing against Dallas and Kansas City. I guess you saw it less with Dallas because Moon was playing the right back role. But Latif, Baba said it. He's the energy of the team, and you definitely saw it when he wasn't playing. These last 2 or 3 games in the season. Which was he was randomly just dropped off the starting lineup. Latif is the energy, and some games are going to come down to energy and personality, which Latif is always going to have. So yeah.
What are your Steve? What are your thoughts on Latif and the job he's done?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always liked him, even in the seasons past. Whenever I saw him play, because the thing about him is that he plays multiple positions too, and that's another big plus, especially in modern football. I think when he can play right back, he can play as a midfielder, and he can play as a winger. When you can provide that kind of versatility, especially in a time like this, at this point of the season, when your schedule's starting to get crammed more than the start of the season, I think it really helps to have a player like that who provides multiple skills no matter what kind of what position he plays. It's really, I think it helps a lot. And I think Blessing's form has actually improved gradually this season. I think to start the season, he wasn't the same player that he was before, but now over the last, I think 2-3 games, he's looked like the player that he once was, and that was really nice to see.
Yeah. All right. So now let's talk a little bit more about the team. Let's talk about Bob Bradley. Let's get a little bit more in depth. Obviously, I'm gonna pull this thing the table again. So LAFC right now they sit in ninth, 12 points in 10 games. Right. Not the LAFC we're accustomed to. Not the type of championship team that that we expected to. I don't think anybody expected. All right. It's been very disappointing. I think for me, it's like the job that Bob Bradley has done has been very poor in these 10 games. And I know people will say like the injuries and all that, but even if you have injuries, you find a way. Fourth season, right? You said it, Steve, to start the show. This is when the team understands everything. And 4 years already, 4 years in. I know it's early. Look, it's 10 games. They've played. I think I did the math. They played 30% of the games. They're going to play 34 games this season. They've played 30% games. And this next month, we're going to be in July. They play 6 games in July. 17 games will be half the season. So I think this next month is going to tell us a lot about this team. I know there's a lot of there's not a lot of patience with Bob Bradley right now and with the fans. But give me your thoughts on Bob Bradley, Steve, and what would you like to see moving forward for him?
I think consistency, because like I said, when you watch LAFC this season, you still see signs of a team that can really, really play. But you want to see them put together a string of good results, because right now that's not happening. And, when you're a team with players that are as talented as LAFC and you're not producing results consistently, even at home, I think that becomes a big, big problem. And I mentioned that this is his 4th season. And if, by 4th season, you don't know what you're going to get from a coach who's been around for so long, I think that in and of itself is an issue too. So maybe this could be a situation where 1 or 2 months later, we're saying, I think Bob Bradley's relationship with LAFC has kind of run its course. So I think you're right when you say that, this next month or so will, give us a much clearer picture. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it is, because that's at half the games, and say they're not going good, then you could still salvage the second half. Unfortunately, I don't like to get too ahead. I don't like to get too ahead, but 10 games in, fourth year in, it's not looking good. But anything can happen. JP, give me your honest thoughts about Bob Bradley.
I just think it's a attitude issue, and he doesn't commit. And when he does commit, the things don't go his way. And what I mean by that is, he started with 5 in the back. He did a new formation. They were winning 1-0. You don't touch that formation if it's working, because you stick with your 4-3-3, and more or less all the teams in MLS know your 4-3-3 and how you're going to play. So if you're going to try out this new formation and it's working, you're supposed to commit to it. But he makes these subs, which ultimately don't work out. Cost him the goal with K, and he just doesn't commit. And when he does commit, against New York City, he committed with the 4-3-3. K makes the mistake, and he doesn't take him out. So he commits to the wrong things, and it's going to end up costing you. And this is like Steve said, his 4th season. This isn't his first rodeo here, and he knows MLS. He's there's a Bob Bradley school of coaches. There's a lot of coaches that have gone under him, and he's looking like the rookie, and all these other coaches that have been under him, kind of, I guess, can see these things that he's not. So my issue is, if he doesn't have a good July, if he doesn't have a good next month, he should ultimately be sacked, because LAFC is a championship winning team. But the thing is, who do we bring in? It's a front office decision of, do we all our chips in a new coach, or do we keep this system that more or less isn't working? And going back to like an old comment, I think LAFC need a center back and a 9. And Bob Bradley can easily say, well, I don't have a number 9. So obviously my formation isn't going to work, or my system isn't going to work. But I still think you have enough pieces to be at least in playoff position, to be like in Houston spot or the Rapid spot. Obviously not a top 3 because of the injuries, but he doesn't have these excuses, I think, to be 9th. He doesn't have enough of a say to be 9th. That's where I stand.
You had a great point there. I just want to get some of the comments. LFC Live says, "Look at our away record; it's not pretty." Preach, Steve. He says, "When JP speaks, I listen." So and you guys are hitting the nail on the head, because I really do feel like, with Bob Bradley, there shouldn't be any excuses going into your fourth year, and the experience he has in the MLS and what he's been able to do. I know that the injuries have been unfortunate. Maybe the injuries, I'll give him. It's out of his control. Maybe, and also potentially bringing the players, but like, unfortunately for these players that they've brought in, and these are not the players that I think right there. Their players are playing the USL. It's not like. Right, I cover Galaxy, and I don't like to bring up the other teams when I'm talking about a specific team. But they're getting players from France, right? They're getting players. We don't know who these players are, but they're coming from a different part of the country. They're coming from like France, right? But if you're a fan of something, that's exciting, right? But when you're getting players from USL or from here or there that are young, and unexperienced, and still have to get their feet wet. I think that's where the frustration comes, because I think this team, to me, you're missing a little bit more elite veteranship. You need a little bit more. You don't need to get a Higuain type of player, but you need some players with a little bit more experience. And I think that's what they're really lacking. And then they tend to go to be really, really young, and unfortunately it's not working. I think obviously the Brian Rodriguez situation, they still don't have another DP spot. So. And I think it's tough where this team is going to go this next month, because I can't predict. And I think if Bob Bradley's not able to get it done this next month, I think you're going to have to start looking at a different team. Now, is the front office going to be able to make that decision? Because this is the first time ever dealing with this situation. There's other teams in the league that they've gone through this downward spiral where you're expected to meet these be higher than your expectations, and you're not. And this is the first time for LAFC. And I think we're going to learn about a lot about the front office, a lot about the team, a lot about these players, because some of these players are starting to crack under pressure. They are, and it's I never felt like it was too much pressure for them, but now I'm really starting to see it. Some of these players, the pressure is getting to them, and unfortunately they're not being able to produce. And what play with so much of this talent and so much of what they've had in these last couple of years, to me, it's very head scratching. And I'm hopeful they turn things around. But I want to bring up a comment from Katie. She always has good comments. She said, "We thought we had so much depth this year. We don't have depth. We need true experienced players on LAFC." What are your thoughts about this depth of the team, Steve?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you bring up, the need for a player with more experience and veteran leadership, because I remember after the FC Dallas game, in the press conference, I asked Vela about what he thought about Kim Moon-han's performance, and he mentioned, I was kind of surprised by it, to be completely honest with you. He mentioned how, Kim is a player of experience, that we, one of the expectations that we have for him is to provide that experience for the team, and I was kind of going, really? Because he's, in Korea, we don't really see him as one of the more experienced players. He's a 25-year-old player who's been playing most of his career in the second division. He's one of the up-and-coming players, if anything, from, for like the way we see it. But, I get what Vela is trying to say, in the sense that, he's a player with national team experience. He's played in international tournaments before. So I understand what he's trying to say. But if you're looking for a veteran leadership, like the word you mentioned, veteran leadership, or like experience, he's not exactly a veteran player. And if that's something that LAFC needs, you're not going to get that from Kim Moon-han.
I mean, you make a great point on that, because I think the reason why Vela said that, I'm just gonna just theorize on this, is because all the players he's playing with are so young. So when you have a player that Kim Moon-han, he plays on the national team. He's coming from I think instantly Vela's like, we know what South Korea did to Germany or whatever. He's probably thinking along those lines, and I would be thinking along those lines too. But I think that also, on top of that, for what you just said, that just means to me that Vela sees the same thing and like, look, we don't have that much experience. And your point, like you're saying, Kim Moon-han's going to practice, is going to give LAFC that experience. And I don't know his English, how well his English is, Steve. You obviously know that way better than I do, but I don't.
His English isn't great, my man. It's not great.
Okay, so another point. It's not like he's gonna be like, "Yo, come on, guys, let's do it," right? Yeah. I'm assuming there's a translator there. And that's a big thing for concern right there, because it's like, if Vela's not having a good game, Diego Rossi's not having a good game, and you have all these very talented youngsters, who's going to be the guy that's going to be like, all right, you know what, this second half we need to go in there, we need to win by all means, even if it's an ugly win. I don't feel like they're having. Oh, someone's phone went off. I don't know if they're having those type of conversations. JP, what are your thoughts on getting some veteran leadership on this team?
Yeah, I mean, there's just nobody that screams. There's nobody that yells. And, honestly, I don't think a leader needs to be that. I think Vela ultimately is the leader. But, when you get scored on, Vela, you don't see Vela, clapping, telling them to keep it together or anything. Nobody does that. Not even Murillo, not Segura, who's been there, since he already has 2-3 years here. Blackman, I guess, is too young or too timid sometimes. Atuesta's captain, but he doesn't yell either. So yeah, I mean, you need a leader, and I was okay with Vela's comments on Kim Won because he's 25. He's all the other signings are 2021, so they don't have experience. Moon has international experience. He's coming from a different league, so ultimately he does have. I mean, he's not going to be a leader, but he has experience. He's not some young kid that you have to teach, more or less. You just have to get him into the league, and I think getting a center back like Kim Won, that's 25, 26, that's been, around, can help the team because we don't have depth in the center back spot. There's no depth in the center back spot. We played with the 3 back, and now Blackman's gone. You don't have anybody to replace. You can't play back 3 next week. And then we don't have a number 9, and, figuring out the third DP spot if Rossi goes to Everton or the Spurs, or, if Brian Rodriguez ends up coming back, it's very limiting to the big star power you can go for number 9. There's talks about some Colombian that's been to Europe, who's been loaned out. He's been Millonarios right now, and he's been around, and he would be a good asset. But, you obviously have to, the front office needs to figure out what they're going to do with Brian Rodriguez before they can get any other leadership or get a player of experience. And I guess that's ultimately what's holding LAFC back. And I don't think it's affecting the team, but it's keeping the team stagnant from making that push come transfer season, transfer time.
No, I'm with you. And JSR Football says we haven't had a real leader since Walker left. I mean, you went far as back as Walker, and Walker was definitely a leader and definitely would keep these guys in check. Another comment. We need someone to slap these guys a bit. They need it. Let's see live. You're crazy with it. I want fire in our players. Yeah, like all these comments that I'm seeing. Look, and these are coming from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, different places. Like, go ahead, JP.
Yeah, one last thing. It's like, okay, and if Bob Bradley has so much experience, right, and if he sees his players aren't, taking it into their own hands, he ultimately needs to be that voice, because that's what the coach is. It's not just, the coach doesn't tell you what position to play and what tactics need to be implemented. He obviously is the energy as well. If his teammates or all the players have their head down, he needs to scream from the training or from the coach's box, and give these players energy. And he's not like that. Every time the camera goes to him, he kind of just has his arms spread and is quiet. And that's ultimately not what you need. You need a voice as a coach when your players aren't doing it themselves.
Yeah, and I think from what I know Bob Bradley yells, but I think part of the play yells in the way that maybe players don't feel as motivated, and I think probably once game time, they're probably tired of hearing him yell. Is the sense I get. But what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? Have you had a guess, Steve? I'm gonna just put you on the spot. Is LAFC going to turn this thing around, or not? What are your thoughts?
I think they will. It would be inexcusable for them to not even be in the playoffs at the end of the regular season. I mean, because really, let's think about that, But I don't think it'll be to a point where they can break into the top 4 or top 3, because considering the way that they've struggled so far this season, I kind of don't. I don't really see that. I think they'll continue to sort of have this consistency issue. I don't think it's an issue that can be fixed in the short term. So I do see them making the playoffs, and but this team is not, they have this tradition of not coming through when it really, really matters, and I think, can they get through that this season? It's tough to see for me. It's tough to see for me. So I can't really, it's tough for me to say that they'll have a successful season, because a successful season would mean winning the title, right? For LAFC.
Yep. This year, exactly.
Yeah, so that that's, I don't really see that coming this season.
Yeah, JP, what are your thoughts? Do you see this turning around or not?
I would like to wait until the summer transfer window closes to see ultimately what happens if we get a 9, if Rodriguez leaves, if Rossi leaves, who stays, and then ultimately see if Bob Bradley has everything he needs, or is given his number 9, and what happens with the 30 spot, because if you want to win a championship, you have to have 3 designated players. You need to have those 3 class players, and LAFC haven't had that this season. I ultimately think Vela and Rossi need to stay healthy, and like Steve said, I don't see them cracking the top 3, top 4 at best. If they sell Rossi, Rodriguez comes in, and then they get a number 9. Best case scenario, because Rodriguez just doesn't have a market anymore. I don't think Rodriguez has a market, so I ultimately think he's coming back. He's not getting minutes at Copa America to get a market again. So I ultimately think Rossi's the one to go if they want to make another move. Because if not, they both stay, and you still don't have a number 9, and you don't have enough money to get a big number 9 with experience that can help this team. So like Steve said, top 4 at best, and then whatever the soccer gods want. If they want to give LAFC the title or not, then and so be it.
I mean, it's not. Look, I'm gonna pull this as last time the table so far. Right, LAFC number 9. And we look at the top 4. You got Seattle, Kansas City, obviously the arch nemesis, the Galaxy in Colorado. I mean, anything can happen in that 4th spot. I mean, they're not too far from it, right? Number 4 currently has 16 points, right? You're about 4 points away. A couple wins could definitely change that, but you expect that Minnesota's going to get a couple wins. You also got to play Portland this month. You play Real Salt Lake here in these next 2 games. So Austin FC. So there's a lot of things that could potentially turn for LAFC's favor. But I think we need to see some 3 games in a row win streaker. We need to see that. And for right now, for me, it's a little tough, right? And I think, it's right for everybody to feel disappointed. But I also would say this, look, it's 10 games in, that's 30%. And I think this next month is going to tell us a lot about LAFC. And unfortunately, if they don't turn it around, they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot. And that's not what this team – if this team is fighting for a playoff spot come towards the end of the year, this is a terrible season. There's no way – when you're expected to win the cup, right? Expected to win, because that is the pressure that LAFC. That's the one thing I don't think people realize, that their early success has put them in this situation, and obviously being in the 4th year, but they have the highest pressure, because if they make any mistake, the pressure mounts, and I think you're starting to see maybe some of that pressure is causing some of these mistakes, unfortunately. But I mean that's just what comes with the territory when you're expected to win the cup. You have Bob Bradley, you have all these players, and you have a Carlos Vela. Look, any team with Carlos Vela should be expected to win the MLS Cup. Should be expected to be in the top 4. And when you're not meeting those expectations, I think on the other side, you should also face the criticism, because you're not playing to your ability. You're not playing to what these fans and players expect you to be at. So we'll see what happens. Any final thoughts before we let you guys go, Steve?
I think that's about it. Thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate it. Quick comment here from CeeLo. He says, I ain't wearing my flex jersey until we get 4 or 5 wins in a row. Hopefully you're not waiting. Hopefully you're not waiting for that. Andy got some jokes in here. He says, always top 4 in MLS power rankings. He says, my guy LAFC Live should be the next coach. So we got a little JP. Give me your final thoughts.
I forgot to mention it, but Bob Bradley's substitutions in this game made it seem like we had a midweek game that he was resting us players for. The next game was until next weekend, so you had 5 days for Cifuentes and Latif to play it all, or Vela to go in a half and play all games, and rest the weekend, and then an extra 3 games of this week. So ultimately, I think Bob Bradley needs to get his decision making right. These next 3 games are all winnable. We have Real Salt Lake twice and Austin FC. I guess Austin is the hardest one, because you have to go to their new stadium, and it's the new toy. But they haven't been good. They couldn't beat San Jose in their first game. Then LAFC should easily get 9 points this week, or these next 3 games, and then we can go from there. But LAFC, like you said, need a hot streak, and then hopefully they go back to.
Not much of very winnable games. They got Real Salt Lake. Andy's Austin FC's team. Andy's an Austin FC fan all of a sudden now, and then Real Salt Lake again. So 3 very winnable games. We'll see what happens. Give them as yeehaw in the chat there. But guys, that's gonna wrap things up. We went over an hour, but I want to give thanks to Steve. Steve, rocking your Korea jersey there. Let the people know where they can follow you.
They can follow me on Twitter. Most of the time I'm on Twitter. Real Steve Scores is my Twitter handle. So yeah, twitter.com/Real Steve Scores. Pretty easy, right?
Nice. Yeah, pretty easy. JP, man, you've been doing a solid job writing the recaps and the previews for the articles. Let the people know where they can follow you and read the articles.
Yeah, so I cover LAFC for the Soccer Hub. So yeah, on Twitter, JP_Marquez20. That's where you can follow me. I always retweet the articles that I write and everything, LAFC and LA Soccer Hub. So, you can catch me there.
Yeah, definitely give a follow to JP. Definitely give it a read. He's been doing a great job with those articles. So, guys, for you guys listening, every Tuesday night, we're talking LAFC at 7 p.m. If you guys want to join the chat, we'd love to have you guys on here. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to give this a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. If you guys want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Gio Garcia LA Lives. So for Steve and Juan Pablo, this is Gio. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye, everybody.